All right, this is Liz Svatek, host of the Conversations with Warrior Women podcast. And no, you are not in the wrong place. I am introducing my good friend Deb today from Life After Corporate. Deb, take it away.
Welcome to Life After Corporate, your ultimate guide for making the leap from corporate leader to entrepreneur. I'm Deb Boulanger, entrepreneur, executive leader, and founder of the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs. This is your time to break through the glass ceiling once and for all and get your ticket to the C-suite. Come back each week to get the leading strategies, advice, and tools that will give you the skills and confidence you need to replace your corporate paycheck. Are you ready? Let's go. Thank you so much, Liz, and I'm so glad you are our special guest today. Liz is a sister from another mister. We met each other at a mastermind group and have become inseparable ever since. And so you're in for a ride today. And warning, this might be an explicit podcast, so we'll have to mark it even explicit because Liz Svatek is in the house. Liz is the CEO of Warrior Women, Inc., a six-figure personal growth business founded upon women unleashing their inner warrior and becoming the most powerful versions of themselves. She's the creator of the Warrior Woman Mastermind. Her transformational program brings women together across the world, and she is the host of Conversations with Warrior Women, as you just heard, which is globally ranked in the top 1.5% of all podcasts. Liz travels all over the world, speaking, healing, and empowering women to live into their limitless possibility and reclaim their power. I'm so excited to have you here today, Liz.
Deb, my face already hurts from smiling, so this is a bad thing. Like we barely started talking. You already explained I'm going to be cursing, so I'm feeling very free. And my face hurts from so much smiling.
I love it. And thank you for playing with me and introing the podcast. I thought that was fun for us to do today.
That was fun. I got to do my podcaster voice.
Yes, your podcaster voice. We all have a podcaster voice, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes. All right, Liz, we want to hear your story. This is Life After Corporate. So most of our interviewees have a corporate story, not all, but most. And you have a very interesting background. I'm wondering if you'd share with our viewers, how did you get to this journey of entrepreneurship?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think I've done every job out there. I just want to say that when people say, well, what's your background? I feel like I'm a person that's done every job possible. But before I went on the journey that I'm on now, I was in marketing, luxury marketing. This was something I was very good at, Deb. I really enjoy marketing. Marketing is like a fun thing for me. And I know that you love marketing, so we have that in common. And I'm really good at it and intuitive at it. And so people want to pay me to do this, Deb. This is just what it is. And so I was in a job being paid very well and miserable, absolutely miserable. I tried to make the best of it. I work with some fun people that I really actually did enjoy. I felt like I could be creative. I had freedom. I mean, I had everything going for me in this job. And yet I still felt like there was something more for me. I really just kept having this little intuitive hit, like, there's something more out there. I know there is, because this can't be it. This can't be what I'm put on earth to do.
Yeah, that's that niggle, right? And a lot of the women and men who are listening to this podcast today are saying, yeah, I know that niggle. I know that feeling of, is this all there is? Is this all life? Is this all that's left for me? Is this corporate job, being a wife, a mother, a corporate leader? So what happened? And I know you weren't always in corporate. You had also a background in acting.
That's when I say I've done it all, Deb, I've done it all. I was a stand-up comedian, an actress, a screenwriter. I had my own social media company. I've really done, I had a wide background, but I think, having the golden handcuffs on is very compelling, because when you have them on, you're being paid well, you're being treated well. I mean, it couldn't have been more beautiful golden handcuffs. It's hard to let it go. And it's hard to leap into the unknown, because you really don't know what you're leaping into when you leap into entrepreneurship. I had to learn to embrace the unknown. And I really kind of had like a midlife crisis, some people would say, but I don't believe in midlife crises. I think they are a reinvention. I think it's a cry for reinvention, not a midlife crisis. So I had a cry for reinvention, and I decided to absolutely reinvent myself in almost every single way. And it started with the Conversations with Warrior Women podcast.
Really? So that was your first foray. Were you still in corporate when you launched the podcast?
No, I left corporate. I was ready to do something different. And people had always said to me, well, back, it's like your stand-up days and your acting days, and you're such a storyteller and you have such great conversations. And I love your personality. You should really be a podcaster. And Deb, let me be honest, I didn't even know what a podcast, like where it was. I was like, people listen to podcasts. I mean, I literally, the tech was on a scale from 1 to 10. How much I knew about the tech of a podcast, I was a 0.
So funny.
Nothing.
So, a lot of people kind of sleepwalk through life, right? So you get to this time in your life, and I know I got there too. I was in my early 50s, and I felt like I'd been an ostrich for a very long time. Like I'd put my head in the sand. Like there was stuff going on around me that I wasn't really happy about, but Lord, that paycheck, that security blanket, the affordable luxuries that paycheck afforded kind of does hold you back. And then there comes this point in time where there's like, no, just no, this is the end. And I think if you're an evolutionary personality, and I was reading like Gail Sheehy's Passages when I was 16 years old. So I was like inevitable to evolve into something else. But what was that decision point? What was that moment when you said, this is it. I'm going all into the podcast, goodbye to corporate and the safety net?
I think it was when I turned 49, because I knew I was a year from 50, and I was watching a lot of women come into 50. Not good. Just coming into 50, I don't want to celebrate. I don't feel like I'm really doing what I want to do. I feel invisible. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I thought, my God, I do not want to come into 50 like that. I want to come into 50 like the person at the finish line, Deb, like chest out on the tape. I don't want to come up. Tits up. I don't want to come literally and die before the finish line. That's not how I'm coming into 50. So I realized that was going to take me doing something drastic and quitting the job. And thank God for my wonderful husband who supported this. Quitting my job was the first step in that process. And then letting myself explore, letting myself say, okay, well, what do I want to do? Which I never really had asked myself, because so many people were paying me for something I was good at.
Yeah. So let's talk about what that was like for you, because it's not like you flip a switch and you're suddenly, over here doing the corporate thing, being such a fantastic marketer. Everyone wants you to do that, to the idea of a podcast, to where you are now, which is, girl, you are significantly changing the lives of the women that work for you. I mean, there's no going back when you work with Liz. And I'm seeing this. I'm seeing how much you're embracing all of these new modalities and you're bringing it all to your clients. And so for those who are tired of sleepwalking, let's talk about how you stop sleepwalking, and then how you're working with women who no longer are content with just going through the motions of their day, but instead want so much more. And what does it mean to have limitless possibility?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we're all sleepwalking to an extent in different phases of our lives, right? And then we kind of wake up to different realities. And I think the painful reality was I didn't know what the next reality would be, number one, but also that I had been kind of asleep, and that made me sad that I was just over there numb. I call myself a recovering neck upper, meaning I didn't know I had a body. I just was kind of making all decisions from my brain. That's what I thought. I thought that's where you made decisions from. I wasn't really connected to my heart. And I think that's what's so confusing when people say, oh, the Warrior Women Inc. Like they just imagine me. I'm over here with these women in the trenches. Now, maybe we are in the trenches sometimes, but really what I mean by warrior women is a warrior woman is connected to their heart. We are over here feeling our feelings. We are not, bending to the dark side of resilience, which is what I call it. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to muscle my way, not feel anything, stuff it down, and that catches up with you, whether it comes out through your body or your mouth or wherever it comes out. It's not, you can't keep pushing that down. It's like the beach ball in the pool. It's going to keep popping up, and it's going to pop up on the side and where you don't want it to pop up. Maybe you're going to rage out at somebody. Maybe you're going to have a breakdown. And I just felt like I was in this malaise it was just a big blur of nothing. And what's hard about feelings, which I have learned the hard way, is if you don't let yourself feel the sad feelings, then you cannot actually have the joy, because there's no cherry picking feelings. You have to actually carve out the space and say, I'm going to cry. I'm going to feel these feelings. I'm going to have my rage. I'm going to yell and scream, whatever it is that I need to do. And when you do that, when you carve out that space for that and let that happen, then the joy can fill that space. But if you don't do that, then you really don't feel anything. It's like even the joy doesn't feel like joy. And I remember thinking that I'm sitting at a table full of people I like, and I don't feel anything. I don't even feel the joy. Like that was what was killing me, is that I couldn't even feel the joy and the love that was in my life.
And I think that's part of this journey and this wake up call. And I think the sadness, for me at least, the sadness came first, right? So feeling the sadness. I remember going away on a silent meditation retreat, trying to understand, do I hang on to this marriage, or, what do I do? And it's so scary. It's like leaving the corporate job and leaving the paycheck, leaving the husband, leaving the, family unit is very similar. And I'm listening to the teacher tell a story about how this man was being dragged across the field by a mule that he had fallen off of, but he's holding on to the reins for dear life. And suddenly, just like, oh my God, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm in a puddle of tears. I'm so embarrassed. It's a retreat center. Everyone's quiet. Here I am sobbing my eyes out. But was the first realization that, and I think many women do this, is that we're the ones who hold it all together. So we don't have time for the emotion. I don't have time to be sad or angry. Everyone else is falling apart around me. I am the voice of reason. So I need to hold it all together. And so when people come to you and they're in this sleepwalking phase of they need to hold it all together, they need to be all the things to all the people in their lives, how do you get them in touch with their emotions? How do you get into the body?
Yeah, this is a great question because, listen, I went kicking and screaming, if you really want to know. I was not over here going, when people were telling me what to do, I was like, no, no, I won't do it. I think, part of it is realizing it's nothing external that's bothering you. And, I'm pretty good at illustrating that. I think personal growth should be a blast, Deb, and I make it a blast. We definitely cry, but we also curse, and we're inappropriate, and we say everything, and we laugh. And I do it in a community setting because I want women to have each other. And I think that's how we go further faster. So what I'd really introduce is a way to access your heart, right? A way to go into the stillness and to start hearing that intuitive voice. Because for a lot of us, we've shut it down. We can't hear it anymore. We don't almost trust the voice, the intuitive voice inside of us. And that's why we try to rule by committee. Deb, what do you think? Susan, what do you think? Bob, what do you think? What do you think? We're ruling our lives by committee because we're so distrustful of that voice inside. And I teach women to start trusting that voice, because that voice is never wrong. That voice may tell you, leave your husband, leave the job, and that may scare you, but that voice isn't wrong.
And, we have so much conditioning, right, as women, in what's expected of us and what's right and what's wrong. And in many cases, I think what surprised me is the more relationships I create with women like you and the other women that are in Tracy's community. We're both coaching with Tracy Litt. She's also going to be on the podcast at a future date. Yeah, we're going to do it. Is that we've all experienced these micro traumas, and some are major traumas, right? Childhood traumas. And that part of this shutdown has been a protective shield. It's almost like the bodyguards or the bouncers are around kind of protecting us from feeling too much, because Lord knows what would happen if a woman actually felt all the feels and was emotional. We'd be labeled hysterical or crazy or what. So, I mean, getting into the body, what about that internal, we talked about it when we were away together at the Mind Magic event, that sometimes there's this like plexiglass wall, like you can get only so far in your life, and then suddenly you don't know why, you don't see a barrier, but you certainly feel a barrier inside. And can you talk a little bit about what that's all about and how women can get past that? Because you don't get to be limitless if you keep hitting that plexiglass wall.
And well, and it is normal to hit it, right? So, but first of all, I got to normalize the plexiglass. If you're hitting the plexiglass wall, you're normal. Congratulations. I love you. And if you even are aware you're hitting a wall, you are my favorite person, because that awareness is the first step. And let me just say something about trauma, because you just said it so beautifully. Trauma, big or small, right, is important to recognize, because you can bring down a mountain with an explosion, but it also can be brought down by rain. Slow and over time, that mountain can come down. So trauma, little or big, brings a mountain down. And you have to really, a lot of women have such judgment. Well, I wasn't raped. I had a good childhood. They give me, like, why should I, it doesn't matter. It's what your body made meaning of. So if some kids made fun of you on the playground and you made that mean something, you could be carrying that around and feel the same as somebody who had a bigger trauma in your mind, bigger trauma, quote unquote. So trauma is something to be addressed. That's the first thing. The plexiglass wall, I feel, is not being in touch with your little girl. And this is a lot of the work I do with these warrior women. I really believe she is the key. The little girl inside you, we've had to kind of lock her away. She's not really a person we can bring into the patriarchy, because God knows she wouldn't survive. So we've lost this connection with ourselves. And so when we hit the plexiglass wall, it's because we're in the doing and we're trying to do, right? And then when we hit the plexiglass wall, that's an indicator that you are not going internal. You are not addressing the little girl. And let me say something about that little girl. As you know, that little girl is going to be hurt. So she's been asking, and she's waiting her turn and raising her hand. And the longer you ignore her, then it feels harder and harder to get back to her. I have some women that get very emotional when we do some of this work with our little girls, and they cry and say, I neglected her. I've pushed her so far away. I feel like I can't get in touch with her. And it's a process, right? This healing is not a one and done, right? Healing is over time. It's a journey. But I think getting in touch with your little girl, which is really this deep soul part of yourself, and addressing your needs, right? Your basic needs. My God, Deb, we work with women who won't even pee. They won't even pee. We're holding our pee, for God's sakes, Deb. If we're holding our pee, right? We have to eat when we're hungry, pee when we have to. We have to listen to what the little girl wants inside. That will actually shatter plexiglass, believe it or not, listening to the little girl.
All right. So I can be woo, right? And I've done a lot of woo stuff in my life. And the little girl stuff scares the shit out of me. And I don't know why. Whenever I've worked with someone who is a psychologist or a healer or a coach who said, close your eyes, go to find that little girl. I'm like, no, I don't want to find her. She was just so shy. She had, she was so afraid of rocking anyone's boat. She was always tripping over her own 2 feet and having skin knees. I mean, literally, still have scars on my knees from when I was 5 years old, always tripping over my feet. And my great aunt, would say, you were always so self-conscious. And then, the trauma experience I had on Romper Room with, falling flat on my face on local television in East Providence. So I have a hard time understanding what wisdom that little girl can share with me right now. So give us the big reveal on what we can learn from the little girl, and how do you get in touch with her? And is it, she just a phone call away? What's the process?
Yeah, what's the process? And first of all, I was on Romper Room as well. This is why we actually truly are related.
Oh my God.
I was on Romper Room. I took the mirror. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. You know the mirror where they say, yeah, I see Deb, I see what well, they never called my name on television. And then I was there in person. I was convinced she was going to call my name. She did not call my own name. So guess what I did, Deb?
You grabbed the mirror.
And I called my own damn name. And I have to tell you, this is something I now go around and speak about, that you have to call your own name.
Oh my God.
Because this is what it's about, man. We have to call our own name. You can't wait for someone to call your name and say, you're the one. Come on, Deb. No, you have to call your own name. So it's amazing you just brought that up, because that's one of my favorite stories about my little girl, first of all. But second of all, I think the way you get in touch with your little girl is you have to go internal, right? You have to be able to close your eyes, and you have to sit with her and imagine her and bring her into your world. I don't think this is something you can do just on your own when you're starting out. Absolutely not. I think this is something you need a kind of a guide. I listen, if there's something I want to do, I hire a coach. I hire someone to tell me how to do it. I don't do things just like willy-nilly. I hire the person to do it. So you need a guide, right? First of all, someone who is kind of suitable to this work. But it is a guided process where you slowly but surely get more and more comfortable with relying on her, understanding that she is actually your power source. Because what I think terrifies people is that seems to be a weakness, right? Like you even said, skin knees. She's kind of like, here you are, confident Deb, right? Confident Deb. And then you're like, why do I want to get in touch with skin knees and like kind of not sure of herself Deb, right? Mm-hmm. That is actually the power source. Pouring the love on that wound actually strengthens what is really going on the outside. So when you pour love into that, for example, if I tell you, Deb, my God, the compassion I feel for Deb with her little skin knees, like the love I feel for that little girl is so, it could bring me to my knees with tears. I'm not even going to try to cry my eyes out on this podcast right now, but it really could. Feeling that love for her, understanding what she's been through, right? That is your ultimate power source. And that is what can stabilize you when all the shit is going down. When the husbands are leaving and the job's not great and the teenager tells you to fuck off, guess what you have? You have Deb inside you, this little Deb that you're loving on so much that you feel an inner stability and an inner access to all your emotions, good and bad and ugly. You feel kind of this inner mastery when you start accessing her. And I have women that start accessing her in like a daily basis. Like this is something I think back in the day when we said inner child work, it was so like, my God, I hate the word inner child. Like, no, I'm not doing this. No way. But accessing your little girl, and I really wanted to bring a modern approach to this, because if you heal the girl, the warrior appears. Heal the girl, the warrior appears. You wouldn't believe the strength you have. And this is not the resilience strength where you push through, you don't feel your feelings, you don't ask for help. No, you become a person that even when you meet another person who's in pain or coming against you in some way, suddenly you can see their little girl. Suddenly you can feel that compassion for other people in a way you never could before, because you have to feel it first for yourself. You cannot feel, it's like the mask on the airplane, right? You cannot put the mask on, you got to put the mask on first for yourself. You got to feel that self-compassion for you first. And then you will feel self-compassion for people that you actually think you can't even feel it for.
Wow, that's so interesting. And, for the guys who are fans of this podcast, you have little boys inside of you too. So it's the same thing. This is not unique to women only. There's so much. And I think, toxic masculinity as well. So I just want to give a little nod to the guys. I know this is mostly women who listen to this podcast, but this is, really the human condition. So tell us a story about how healing the little girl impacts the entrepreneurial journey, because a lot of the women who are listening to this podcast are, corporate leaders. They weren't paid for their feelings. They were paid for getting shit done. And, some of the challenges that come with women leaders are, the care and feeding of the teams and all of that. So how does healing the inner little girl impact your success as a business owner?
I think I work with a lot of women, right? Entrepreneurs, and also in the golden handcuffs and maybe looking to depart. And they all have confidence issues. There's a confidence, it's a visibility issue, a confidence issue. Like even in their job, even if they're well paid but maybe they feel like they're working with a lot of men and they're not feeling so secure, about what they know. Even the women in the highest jobs. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this. There's a confidence gap there. And this is what's so beautiful. When you're tapping into this little girl, right? When you feel like you really have developed this amazing relationship with her, then it becomes, she's doing it. She's running the meeting, Deb. She's running the show. You got to talk in front of a bunch of people. You're nervous as hell. Guess who's getting on stage? Your little girl. You know who loves your stage? Your little girl does. Let her talk. Let her be there. Let her run the meeting. You know what she loves? She loves color. She loves to do things. She loves to be seen. This girl does not care about how things look, right? She cares about how things feel. She wants to feel good. She wants to be visible. So this is a way to be so confident, to show up confidently, because there's a little part of our little girls when we were growing up where at one point we kind of had some boldness. You know, we kind of were confident. Like we didn't even know. We didn't even know. Like when you're a baby, you're not like, oh, don't take a picture of me. I'm too fat. Oh no, please. Please don't do it. And when we're babies, we're not like, oh no attention, please. I don't like attention, please. No, we're like, look at me, I farted. I'm amazing. Look at me. My whole bottle. Am I amazing? Look at me. I just burped. Isn't that incredible? Right? So there's something that we miss along the way, clearly, right? Something we lose as we're in society and living in this patriarchal world, especially as women, men having to deal with what they have to deal with, all the pressures of to be a man, right? Like we lose all of this. But if you go back and get in touch with that, this becomes the best game-changing part of your business, because people have no idea what they're seeing in front of them is your little boy or little girl having a ball. It takes the stress level down to practically nothing.
You know, you just had a huge transformative effect on me, because I'm thinking about being 9 years old and how I loved wearing these electric neon tights. You know, I had green ones, I had pink ones, you know, and all these like really bright colors, and how I loved to be out front. And I was a writer. And so I was 9 years old. I was in fourth grade. I had grown up in that same school, and I wrote great stories, and the teachers loved my stories, and they would send me around to all the other rooms to read my stories. And in fourth grade, I wrote a play called The Trouble with Teenagers, which I directed. So you're absolutely right. I was putting on shows in the backyard. So this shy girl who, you know, by the time I was a corporate leader, had trouble public speaking, and my voice shook, and I got all anxious and dry mouth and the whole thing. And one of the biggest things I had to overcome as an entrepreneur, as a little girl, she was just having a piss of a time being out front.
Yeah. And look at what would happen if you let her lead.
Yeah.
Girl in neon tights doesn't give two fucks, Deb, about an outcome. She's just there showing up, being herself. And you know who's attracted to that? Every fucking person. Everybody. Right? When you are being yourself, when you are like letting yourself be visible and funny and imperfect and all the things, right? When you're sharing vulnerabilities, like that story's amazing. The neon tights, I can see it now. I love it. When you let yourself be seen like that, people are so attracted to that reality. When I go speaking across the country, it's not because I'm a perfect, polished speaker, Deb. It's because I am real. It's because I tell the truth. It's because I'm vulnerable. It's because I let myself be seen. And then people are so drawn to me because they want to be seen too. They want to let themselves be seen. They just don't know how. So letting that little girl lead, she is the key.
She is the key. And, you know, some of the traps that people can fall into when you're entrepreneurs for the first time is like, well, let me just see how someone else does it, and I'll do it just like them, and I'll sound just like them. And what you said, I want to make sure that everyone really heard that, is that it's the little girl in you who's not afraid, who is expressive, who is having fun and wanting to be seen, is what is attracting people into your circle. And that's what's making you successful. That's what makes you a fantastic speaker, a great podcast guest, someone people want to be in the room with. So I think that was really enlightening to just have fun.
Yeah. And I know you also like meet people who are scared to even go on a podcast. I mean, we have podcasts, so we're kind of over here like, what do you mean? It's not that big a deal. But I meet a lot of women who are like even scared to just go on a podcast. Like, what am I going to say? I don't know what. Again, imagine a little girl going on a podcast. She can't even wait. She's like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? This is going to be amazing, right?
Yes.
So if you tap into that energy, it's suddenly life becomes much more playful, right? Like it's not so serious, right? Like it just having that playfulness, the playfulness of the little girl. And we have shut that down. We've just gotten so serious and we don't let her play. And she just wants to play.
You know, and this has been really enlightening for me, because when at first I thought we were going to talk about the inner girl, I thought it was like, oh, healing the inner child and, it feels so heavy. But what you've done is you've flipped it. And I love a good flip is, it's the playfulness, it's the fun, it's the who were you before you had all that trauma? Who were you before you got all that damage? And all these people conditioned you to be quiet and sit still and don't make any noise and yada, yada, yada. Because
Yeah.
this is a personality game. And a couple of episodes ago, we interviewed Danielle Hughes about your personality brand, because that's what people are buying. They're buying who you are inside and out, what makes you tick, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, what you're passionate about, what you value. So, Liz, I want to ask you, what was the biggest shift for you in your own self discovery? Like, what did you have to let go of, or what did you have to embrace about yourself that allowed you to express the way you do and have all of this success? Like, how did you get to the inner girl stuff? Like, were you always this much fun? I know you're a comedian, actress, all that, but
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been accessing my little girl apparently for a long time, but I think there was a part of me that definitely had shut down a lot of that. So I feel more myself now that I've ever felt because I'm in touch with that little girl all the time now, right? So the answer to that is I had to, first of all, do the work to make space for her to feel safe with me again, because I had really shut her down. I told her she was not important. I blocked her away. And I felt a lot of shame around that. I felt like, well, I've neglected her. Why would she want to even spend any time with me? Because I really have like shoved her in the corner. And every time she wanted something, I was like, not now, not now, not now. Just think about it being a parent, right? Not now. I'm busy. Not now, not now. Right. And how devastating that is to kids. So imagine that's what you're doing to yourself by not accessing this little girl. So I was always telling her she was last on the list. So when I started telling her she was first on the list, she was like, wait, hold on. Really? Am I? So it takes a while to kind of get that trust back with yourself and get your little girl to feel safe enough to just be herself and be out there and invite her in. But I would say that a pivotal thing for me was I had a really toxic relationship in my family, and it drew a lot of water. And for years, I think instead of nurturing my little girl, I was trying to fix this toxic family dynamic. I really, when you have a family dynamic in your immediate family, you want to fix it. You don't want it, and so for years it was just spinning around and around. And when I finally said, you know what, I've tried for 40-ish years to make this work, and I'm actually going to just draw a huge boundary and not have this in my life anymore. Although at the time it felt like the scariest thing I've ever done, it actually led me to finally have space enough for her, because truthfully, she couldn't have been out in that dynamic. She could not have survived, because part of the way that dynamic worked was that I was too big, too funny, too loud. I'm the funny one in the room. I want to tell too many jokes. Like she couldn't come out in this dynamic. And now that that's not there, I feel free to be me, but also, it's not that it's like, once you've given the child the attention, she's not always trying to get it. Right. So if you give her the attention she deserves, then she's going to be herself and be out there when she needs to be, but she also can be quiet and she also can be introspective. And so at first, when you let your little girl out of this cage, she's going to be like, I need people to hear me. God bless it. I need to talk. Let me out. Right. Because you haven't had her out in a while. But then after a while, what happens is, you really get used to her having what she needs, giving her what she needs. And then it's kind of like she's your best companion, right? When you feel like being quiet together, you be quiet and you read a book or you spend time together outside. And when you, just like a little girl that you're like a child that you've had, right? If you've been a mother, you have those quiet moments, and then you have those silly moments, and then you have those vulnerable moments, and then maybe you have a little tantrum, maybe you had a not great moment, maybe you had a little moment where you lost your temper or you didn't show up as your best self, and then you have to regroup. So all of that to say that if you have some kind of toxic relationships in your life, that's not a safe place for your little girl to come out and shine, because you really need to go from shame to shine, right? A lot of us have felt all that shame. It's hard to shine when there's not a safe place to do that.
All right. So you need a safe place to do that, which is why we have these mastermind groups and retreats and things that provide those safe containers. So I'm super interested in understanding what was the biggest thing that you had to overcome where you relied on your little girl and she was really the one that led the way? What was the hardest thing that you've had to do in this entrepreneurial journey?
I think it's the visibility piece because even though I seem like I'm like on fire out here with my
Right. No one would think you have a problem being visible.
exactly, but when I was launching that podcast, oh my god, the mind fuckery, as I love to call it, mind fuckery was on fire. I was like, who even wants to hear you? Like, who do you think you are launching a podcast? Like, what in the world? Like, what would you have to say that anyone even wants to hear? You know, it's going to be you and your mom listening. Nobody else is going to listen. You know, so and even my mom was like, I don't even know if I'm going to have time to listen. So really, it was just going to be me. Uh, so, so I had to really access her and let the joy of like I used to put on. I know this is going to shock you, Deb, but I used to put on plays in my backyard too. And I was also a writer in school, and I was known to be a writer. And so we're gonna have to compare all the notes, Deb.
I know all the notes.
Oh my God. I wrote a funny story about Jimmy Carter. I mean, it was like the hit of the school. I had to read it everywhere. It's just so funny, Deb, the correlations between this. I can't even take it. This is why our little girls are so in love with each other. This is what's
I know.
but yeah, so I had to really get over that visibility piece. And when the more I tapped into her, and even recently, I had to do this big impact talk in Florida, and I had to give my big message, like my big TED talk to the world, and I found myself literally frozen in fear. And right before I got on stage, I said, "I'm not doing this. You are. You're doing it. I'm not doing this. This is you, girl. Get it. Let's go." And she was like, "Me? Okay, what? What are we saying? I can't wait. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. There's lights. I'm on a stage. It's going to be amazing." Like, I mean, it was hysterical how fast my nervousness went to total excitement when I handed over the reins to her. So my visibility, my comfortability in showing up in all the ways in my business is due to the fact that I sometimes just give it to her.
That is amazing. That is a huge gem. And I also want everyone to know how incredibly trained you are. I mean, you have certifications in rapid transformation therapy, you're a mind magician. I mean, what haven't you done? I mean, you have science behind you. So we're laughing, we're having a lot of fun here, we're talking about little girls, but I want everyone to understand that, Liz is a mind scientist that really understands the inner workings. And it's just a lot of fun to work with her because she makes the science so much fun. So tell us how you work with clients. What is it that you offer? And when people want to follow you and get more Liz, Conversations with Warrior Women is a great place to start the podcast. But how else can people get in touch with you, work with you, have conversations with their little girls?
Yes. So the play dates. Yeah, exactly. Who wants to have a play date with me? I'd love to have a play date. The way in with me is really through my kind of what I like to call subconscious mind mastery 101 class. Because once you do this class with me, then there's so many other ways you can play with me because I do have a community. I do RTT sessions, like you said, rapid transformational therapy, which for people who don't know, that's kind of a blend of hypnotherapy and deep therapy where you make changes so much faster. I had a client the other day, she said 10 years of therapy and one session with you, and I feel so much better. I said, that's what this is. So subconscious mind work is really powerful. So the first way in with me is to take Limitless Warrior, which is a 12-week class that I teach personally. I make sure you get all the support. You're in a group of women, so you can get that support from them and from me. That's the way in with me. And I also want to give you this fun little tidbit. I have two things coming out. Well, first of all, I have a little fun quiz because I love a quiz, man. My quizzes are my favorite. So I have a fun quiz to how to find your limiting beliefs because a lot of my clients have no clue what's actually really holding them back. So I have a fun quiz you can take and find out what is your limiting belief. So I'll give you that for the show notes. And then I am launching Warrior Women Camp this summer because I feel like all our little girls need to go back to camp. We need to have summer camp. So that's a fun little kind of way that you can get in with me while you're waiting for my fall class to start and have a little fun with me in the meantime. So I can give you all that, but they can just go to lizsvatek.com and find all my things.
And we'll put all those links in the show notes. And, we'll have to do something together, Liz, which would be so much fun, right? To create an experience with, some business skills, some playtime, and some healing and visioning, and I can really see us doing something that would be fantastic.
That
So
sounds so juicy, Deb. Yes to that.
I know, right? So this has been so revealing, and thank you so much for making it so much fun. It is work and it is fun, and everybody, you deserve it. You deserve to give the gift of yourself to yourself so that you can be the person that you were meant to be the day you were born until everyone screwed you up on the way to adulthood. And, for women entrepreneurs, this kicks up all your stuff. Everything is a growth edge. And if you don't have the internal growth edge, you will not receive the external growth edge. You will not make as much money as you have the possibility of making. You will not have as much joy as your business grows. And this is such an incredible opportunity to work with Liz. So Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb. You're amazing. And I can't wait to do more fun things with you. Our little girls are going to play.
More fun things. And if you enjoyed this show, my friends, please take a moment and leave us a rating or review. It means so much. I never take it for granted, but it helps others to discover this show. Share this with your friends, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Life After Corporate. Take care. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, my friend. If you enjoyed this show, please head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave us a review. And be sure to hop over to the Life After Corporate Facebook group and join other growing entrepreneurs to get weekly tips on how to create more money and meaning doing work you love.